Well, good afternoon and a very, very warm welcome to Ballinamore and to this afternoon's Lite Bite Lunch. I'm absolutely delighted to say that rejoining us again today, we have the fountain of knowledge that is Brendan Murphy. So, Brendan, we're absolutely delighted you were able to join us today.
Thank you.
We'll start off as we normally do, Brendan. For those who haven't seen the show, who haven't seen you on the show before, maybe you just give us a little bit of background about yourself.
So I'm an international business consultant, and I work with large businesses and small businesses on how they develop their market, how they structure their organization, and how they make profit. And that covers very many different aspects of business, a lot of it around optimization and being better doing the thing. I lived in Ukraine for some time. I've known Ukraine for 20 years, and I've tried to bridge the relationship between Ukraine and Ireland for many, many years. I lived in a town called Irpin, which most people will know for the atrocities caused by the Russians. I left on the 24th as they were coming in with cruise missiles and with heavy weapons, and drove from there with my wife, her mother, who was 80, her daughter, and her granddaughter, a cat and a dog. And I drove 4,200 kilometers from there to Ireland, all the way being on Irish media, trying to change the rules because the rules in Ireland weren't friendly to Ukraine at the time. And then by the time I got here, we got back to Omeath, and we avoided being killed by the Russians, which is something they tried on several occasions. So that's me.
Absolutely, and I think one of the best parts of the story we first spoke about it was the fact that you talk about the fact that the entire journey was made in a Skoda Fabia 1.2,
That's right. Yeah, a tiny
which
little car. Yeah.
and it's amazing how a compact car like that can actually stand up to a journey like that. Now, before we get into talking about Ukraine properly, we have been asked just to wish a very happy birthday to one of our regular viewers. So, Monique Walsh, we just wanted to say happy birthday to you and hope you have a great day. I know both ourselves, Brendan, and Cheryl
Yes.
back in the back end of the studio all want to wish you a very, very happy birthday.
Yes, absolutely.
So, as you know, Brendan, you weren't originally due to be on the show this week, but Luke, who has agreed to come back on later on in the year.
Mhm.
Because I want to talk to you because of the number of changes that have come up in the last couple of weeks, or more so in the last couple of days, in relation to Ukraine and the Ukraine pushback, which I'm sure we're all very glad to see.
Yeah.
Disappointing to hear about the number of deaths that have now been discovered and areas retaken. But what update have you been getting from within Ukraine itself?
Okay, so this has been long in the planning, and there's been a lot of training in the UK. I got to be careful where I say in the UK because it might be close to where you are now. It was also in different parts of Europe and in America and Canada. And that was to train many, many thousands of Ukrainians to use NATO weaponry, advanced techniques of warfare, and to deliver on a plan that was developed by the Ukraine military. One of it was to draw the Russian forces down to Kherson, which is down in the south, and then to reclaim the northern territory of Ukraine from the Russians. That's been very successful. Thousands and thousands of kilometers of occupied territory have been recovered. The towns and cities and villages have been now back under Ukraine control. And as you say, there's a lot of tragedy and a lot of difficult images and a lot of very disturbing realities are coming out of there, not different to European, not different to Bucha, not different to Costamel, different, difficult, very, very difficult savagery that's being uncovered. And of course, the war continues in that now Donetsk, Lugansk, and the southern territories are still being subject to this counter-offensive, which will see the whole of Ukraine, including Crimea, return to the Ukraine territory. And it will see Russia having a very difficult history for the next 20 or 30 years.
Absolutely. Now, I know the last time you were on, you were fundraising to arrange for the publishing of your book,
Yeah,
and you were doing additional support fundraising.
yeah.
From what I gather, you have reached the target for your book, but you're still trying to raise a little bit more in for the other bits and pieces.
That's right. Yeah, LinkedIn, like other social media sites, have banned people and restricted people and restricted the reach of their posts. And they banned me because I was writing about Ukraine, and it didn't sit well with the people who own or run LinkedIn. I don't know who. And like very many professors and leading politicians and leading military strategists, I was one who was banned and essentially cancelled from social media. So that stopped the fundraising. And but the book itself will be published because the money for that is raised. What I wanted to do is a little bit extra because I am doing some advocacy work and doing some support to Ukrainian organizations, um, which is focusing on the future. There are many people focusing, of course, on the present, but what's needed is to say, well, how do we look at returning Ukrainians? When they return, some of them face devastation of their property, simple things like, thousands, hundreds of thousands of windows are broken, and if you live in a cold country, that's a problem. If you live in a hot country, that's less of a problem, but Ukraine is very cold in winter. Simple things like access to clean water because of the bombing. Gas is a huge problem because of the bombs. There's a lot of demining that's necessary, but that's about dealing with the current, and there are many people involved in that. What I'm looking at now is, well, how do we, from an Irish perspective, return the families of Ukrainians that we've adopted and and bring them home, but give them the supports that are needed so that they can, between 6 and 12 months, they can find their feet, so that they're not going back with absolutely nothing. Because as we know, that's not a journey that people will
Yeah,
travel.
absolutely. Monique has actually just commented there on that, Brendan. That can't believe LinkedIn actually banned Brendan. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, Monique, that is very much the reality that a lot of people writing about what is deemed the the establishment don't want to hear about. And I mean, it is not just restricted to Ukraine. Ukraine is the big thing at the moment, but for a long time, and it has been quite a common case around across social media that this happens.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if anyone is in a position to assist, I'll just pop up the link there. There is the link for Brendan's GoFundMe. Anything at all, any type of donation you can make, or go in, look at the page and share the page with your contacts. It doesn't matter, any type of support at all you can offer, I know would be hugely, hugely appreciated by Brendan.
That's right.
Now, when, what stage is the rebuild in Irpin at? I know there have been several meetings by various organisations.
So Irpin is the same as almost all of Ukraine. The mechanism for delivery is the thing that takes time. and because you can't just give money, because that's a disaster. You get nothing from just giving money. What you need to be certain of is that you have clear projects, clear project aims, clear benefits. Some things have worked extremely well. A lot of the modular homes, the Ukraine National Railway modified train carriages to become temporary rooms to people live in. So there's a lot of the temporary stuff, but the bigger issues take time. Planning takes time. Making sure that the funds are going in the right place and that the quality of expenditure is there, so value for money is exchanged, and that takes time. So where we're at the minute is that some quick things were done quickly. A lot of things are promised, but the execution of it is taking time.
Yeah, that's understandable. And in terms of your own property in our opinion, is that still standing? I know
Well,
you did share a picture previously with the front had where the whole front more or less been blown out, but
so I mean, mine was, they parked a tank ironically in the garden, and fired at the other houses around and about. They smashed the roof with their artillery shells, and then they fired from the tank into my house. So they smashed all of the windows and shot, but the tank bullets, which are obviously big, went through. So there's holes. It's holy. But my neighbours' houses have to be removed completely because they're so devastated that they can't be preserved. So where mine at now is I've got somebody replacing the glass. The roof needs to be replaced. The gas system, obviously, it's problematic because when the pipes are vibrated and subject to such high forces, you might have to take the whole system away. Same with the water system. Water's easy because when it leaks, you can see it. With gas, you can't see it because
yes,
it's invisible. And so if you multiply that by hundreds of thousands of properties across Ukraine, by the time you get somebody to check everything out, it takes a very long time. So at the minute,
absolutely.
it's as simple as trying to weatherproof it, and so it doesn't get destroyed by the weather.
Right. Now, as you know, Brendan, every guest that comes on the show is asked about their favourite Lite Bite lunch. You've had some
Mm.
great answers for us on previous shows, so I'm really looking forward to hear what today's Lite Bite lunch is going to be.
So it's going to be fish, grilled fish, or if you're lucky enough to have a barbecue when you've got time, fish, barbecued fish. And I say that for two reasons. One is where I live in the mountains, the Cooley Mountains in Omeath, and there Morgan Fish Fine Foods, it has a fish factory, and they supply the whole of the world. It's not an advertisement for them, but for a whole fish is €3.50, and a whole fish of bream or trout grilled is absolutely simple to do and very, very tasty. So my light bite would be grilled trout.
Very, very tasty indeed.
Mhm.
Now, before we go on, I just need to make a quick mention about the Micro Business Awards, which I know you will be joining us at.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, and Monique's just commenting on the fact that the last time you were on, you were talking about going for a Teddy's 99,
Yes, very good.
right? Now, Maggie, before we actually move on to the Micro Business Awards, Maggie Geraghty has a question for you, Brendan. Um, with the reconstruction, how are the workers managing with the mines that have been left behind?
Well, unfortunately, there are a number of fatalities, including yesterday and this morning, of workers who are going to try to demine the areas, because what the Russians have done is they've hidden them, and they've hidden them with toys, they've hidden them in teddy bears, they've hidden them in ovens, they've put them under the mat where you walk into the house. And the specialists who need to go first, unfortunately, they found countless thousands of mines. But unfortunately, sometimes the way that they're hidden, maybe in a tree, maybe in something else, in a water well, or underneath the toilet, even, it has killed people and is killing people. So it's a difficult one, but a good question.
Absolutely. So we'll just very quickly make quick mention in relation to the Micro Business Awards. Well, we are indeed 1 month out from the Micro Business Awards finals, when we will be taking over Nice for on Saturday, the 15th of October. For anyone who is thinking about staying overnight in the hotel, today is your last day to book the discounted rooms in the hotel. If you do want to book a room, I would say at this stage the easiest way is just actually call the hotel and call the reservations team in the hotel, and they will arrange it for you. A single room is €144. A twin or double room is 154. That includes your breakfast and full access to the leisure centre. And then, of course, we'll have the awards on the Saturday night. We still do have literally a handful of tickets left. If anyone wants them, some people who had booked tickets who, for one reason or another, are unable to attend. We do now have, I think I was just told there this morning that it was 7 tickets that are still remaining. So if anyone would like to come along, the tickets are priced €85. And what you get for that is you get pre-dinner drinks, you get a sumptuous 4-course meal. We then have the awards presentation, and then we'll have networking late into the night as well. So it really is an excellent night out. Going to meet some great contacts. I know, Brendan, you will be joining us that night as well.
Yes.
We have some absolutely beautiful trophies made by Joe Van Velsen in Kildare, so they'll all be revealed on the night. And of course, Maggie, who just asked the last question there, has done our certificates for us. So we do look forward to seeing you all on the 15th of October in Nice, and it's going to be a brilliant night out.
Yes, I'm looking.
But yeah, I mean, I'm delighted you're able to join us, Brendan, because for you, after everything you've been through at this stage, I think it'd be nice just to have a nice, relaxed night out.
It'll be good, and of course, there's no better entrepreneurs on the planet than the Irish. And in fact, the word entrepreneur was created by an Irishman. So it will be very good to see Irish business people all together.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk to you, moving slightly away from the Ukrainian situation, while still remaining on the Ukrainian situation. The refugee situation in Ireland
Yeah,
overall. We've been hearing horror stories of some refugees pretty much living on the streets.
yeah.
Has there been any improvement on that? Are you hearing anything on the inside within the
No,
community itself?
so so I'll say some things that may be controversial. The census says there's 166,000 empty properties in Ireland. Okay, so it's not because of that. They also say that many thousands of homes that were offered for Ukrainians accommodation haven't been contacted yet. And that says that there's an organizational issue, and the people who are supposed to be checking these properties and the people who own them haven't been able to be as effective and efficient as they could be. So it's not the case that we don't have property. It is the case that we've been told that, right? It's been presented to us as if we don't have the accommodation. That's not true. And it's unfortunate that people have chosen to present it in that way when it isn't true. The second thing is that we have been very good at accepting and embracing many different cultures. And that's a good positive thing for Ireland. We haven't been good at helping them return home, helping them with supports, helping them with skills training, with learning how to do things that would work in their own communities, helping them financially to go back. And what I mean is that from what I remember, there were unemployed people in Ireland who left to find work in another country, was given support for about 6 months. I see no reason why asylum seekers getting benefits in Ireland couldn't get those benefits for 6 to 12 months if they were back home rebuilding their lives, and particularly in terms of Ukraine, where 80% of them want to go home as soon as possible, and the other 20% want to go home as long as everything is okay. Helping them to go home, helping asylum seekers to go home, is the missing part of this jigsaw. And unfortunately, it's not part of the conversation. the part of the conversation is that we don't have room, and that is not correct. It's not true, and it's not based on facts, unfortunately.
Right. Well, Maggie has just actually commented there again. Um, Here in Mayo, we have a small charity that have housed all their refugees. So the problem lies with the government logistics.
Yeah, Maggie's absolutely right. The vast majority of Irish people who offered homes are now going direct through Facebook groups, through social media contact groups, through community organisations. They're, they're working around what the government has paid hard money for, and that in itself is wrong. You know, well, if we're doing it ourselves, we shouldn't have to pay the bill, right? You know, if we're paying someone to do a job, they should do it. And if they can't do it, then, well, they don't get paid. And if we're going to do it voluntarily, then the voluntary organisations should get some recognition for that. So there's a lot of breakdowns in this, and I think it's a reflection of what's happened in Irish society over the last 10 years, that we have a breakdown in these relationships, and we've not been good at things that should be very easy for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this weekend, then we have the Celebrate Ukraine
Yes.
festival. And if I remember correctly, I think it was called Celebrate Ukraine. Ukraine says thank you to Ireland.
Mhm.
And so that's a music festival, or
It's light entertainment, so some of the headline acts are comedians, some of them are musicians, some of them are performance artists that would mix comedy and music together. Elena Kravets, who's very famous in Ukraine, she actually was a comedy partner with President Zelensky when he was a comedian. Very creative, very intelligent, very observational. Um, and you know, she's traveled around different countries trying just to in a simple way, you know, provide something that would be to give thanks to people. So go along, by all means, enjoy the show, meet people, talk to people, discover a little bit about the character of the sense of humor and the sense of entertainment that Ukrainians have, which is similar to our own, to be honest.
right? And um, I'm just trying to pull up the link here now where people need to go. But I'll share the link afterwards where people need to go
Oh,
if anyone's interested in getting tickets for that. It's on Saturday out around Hoth, I believe. So
yeah.
be well worth coming to. Now, moving away from the Ukraine crisis, currently here we're seeing a utilities crisis. As recently as this morning, we've had confirmation of Panda Power pulling out of the market here.
Mm.
We're reading horror stories on a daily basis about some of the energy bills that people are receiving, businesses in particular are receiving.
Yeah.
Some are suggesting that the government need to be throwing wheelbarrows full of money at this.
Mm.
Personally, I'm not sure that that's the way to solve it. But at the
Mm.
same time, I'm not, I don't know what the way to solve it is. As a business analyst, what would your views be?
Okay, so Ireland and Irish policy has been about, you know, standing in the gaps. And we've always been good at exploiting the gaps. But that means we're very dependent on there being a gap. And on the energy side of things, we didn't invest in our own LNG. We didn't really invest in our own gas fields. As you know, there was a lot of controversy about the Shell field, you know, the Corrib and all of these things. And we what we did is we just waited for the UK and for the Dutch and the sort of North Sea gas. So we built in a lot of dependencies that because we that's who we were, that's how we were, and we can't do that before, Rory. And I think I've told you that before, that
Yeah,
we need to be much more of a presence in the world than just being, you know, the lucky Irish who you can pat on the back. They don't upset anyone, they're great crack. We need to actually be more adult about the world, because the world has become very, very serious from what it was. So the first thing is to look at that and say, right, okay, we allowed dependencies to creep in. We don't have an LNG depot. Other countries have built them very quickly. We have great experience and professionals in working in Ireland for gas companies, Irish people who are actually working in Switzerland and in other big gas brokerage countries who are Irish, who know exactly what we should do. So we need to listen to them rather than the politicians. But that, to be fair, is the next 6 to 8 months. If the Germans can build a mobile LNG plant in 6 months, well, the Irish should be able to do it as well, right? So we need to kind of we need to hear from some sensible political decision makers saying, right, okay, we're going to get one and we're going to have to pay for it, and we'll pay for it over 20 years, 30 years, however long we're going to pay for it. But we're going to become more independent from others, and we're going to look at our own gas resources and oil resources, simply because renewable energy makes a contribution, but it's not going to be, in a cold, wet country like Ireland, going to cut the mustard in a cold, wet January, February. It's not, right? And anyone who thinks it is unfortunately delusional. And with all of the data centers that we have in Ireland, we need power, raw power, and that's not the soft power that we see from renewables. So we need to have a very strong policy going forward that makes sense. Now, in terms of the immediate future, there's two things that need to happen. One is that the EU is talking about a financial peg which prices gas. So if they say, well, gas is 50 cent, right? Anything above that is subject to incremental tax. So that if somebody wants to sell it for €1 instead of 50 cent, they're going to pay 75% tax. So they don't want to pay the tax, so they'll keep it closer to the 50. So there is not spending money, it's a price calculation, so that the tax on the cost that you charge gets punishing if you start gouging. If you start looking for more money than what the baseline is, say it's 50 cent, if you're selling it at €1, well, you're going to pay 75% tax. And you go, well, wait, I'm losing my profit margin. I don't want to do it. So then you need to go back to 50 cent. If you get 50 cent, you pay a lot less tax. And this is something that the European Union has been looking at. It's what Ireland should be championing, right? Because we've good, intelligent financial people in Ireland.
My only concern is straight away, and I can already see it, you'll have the competition authorities up in arms.
Well, a competition authority is all right for a good, fine day when everything will work nicely. It's not, these organizations are not good in hard situations. We have to know that, like the data protection people, I get no protection when LinkedIn bans me. I have nobody to go to because it's not built for that, right? If my data is being suppressed by LinkedIn, that in a hard day like I have, GDPR doesn't apply to me. So it's the same to your point about the competition authority.
Yeah,
they need to understand that this is outside their competence in these extreme situations. And they need to say, okay, sorry.
Unfortunately, Brendan, time has again run away on us.
Oh.
So if I can just ask you very quickly, if anyone would like to get in touch with you to find out more, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So they can contact me by email. brendan.murphy@email.com. It's the simplest one. And they can call me on 085-766-4539.
That's brilliant. Listen, Brendan, really appreciate you coming on again. We will see you in 4 weeks' time in Nice. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another guest and another afternoon chat. Good afternoon.
Thank you.